I just did a song and music video. Sort of took a break for a day and a half and did that. And that topic in that is top dead center for the primary message of the Institute, the bigger goal. Then I think a lot of people don't realize that there's something even more important than the earthquake forecasting that I'm working on, and it's not approachable. It's very intangible. It's very difficult to understand, and outside of some of the more ancient esoteric schools, scientifically, the ground for approaching the issue that I am bringing up with the nature of the membrane between the Earth's atmosphere and the outer space, that issue is seemingly the most important thing on the table with respect to the work. And so I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but the details there are sort of where the devil lies. And so we need to, this is the bigger, deeper work. And now I believe that scientifically it's possible to understand that relationship, sorting out the details using the phenomenon of the sun-grazing comet active region hypersymmetry. And so those are the keys to understanding this deeper, more important work. And the earthquake forecasting is said it takes a back seat to that right now. And so sometimes that work gets interrupted by something that's seemingly to anyone that is spying on me, or thinking that they can police something that they don't understand, inaccessible to you. You don't have access because you don't understand the details. You don't have that knowledge, and I can't just give that to you. I can't just impart that to you. And I'm not foolish enough just to ask you to trust me. And even if I was, I think it's something that requires more than trust in a single individual. And so that's why this is on YouTube. And so, that aside, the earthquake that was recorded near Taiwan, the 6.9 in magnitude, 6.5 in moment magnitude quake, I am not, that is a real anomaly because it doesn't have any magnetic signature that would indicate that it was correlated with the events that I have seen in the forecasted events previously. And so there wasn't an electromagnetic anomaly that was coincident with that event that was recorded by the ACE instrument or the other instruments that I monitor. And so I'm setting that one aside. And if you are, again, if you are one of the people that is sort of gaming with the work that I'm doing, I really want to caution you. I really want to caution you against that. I think that's a very, very bad idea. If you think that I'm playing some sort of game, you're wrong. And you should learn the science. If you think that these events are being created by the government or a government, and that I'm part of some faculty to cover that up or game with it in some way, you're wrong. That's not what's happening. And so I appreciate the support and the encouragement and the help But please, 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 don't play games. It's a big hill, very steep. But the trend that I had ignored in this forecast, one of the things that is a key to understanding this, has to do with the nature of the heating of the core, as I mentioned before. And there's a forecaster named Luke Thomas who uses exclusively temperature gradients on the surface of the land around California to forecast these events. And those gradients are hypersymmetric with the incoming disturbances. In astrotometry, every one of those photons is understood to be a consequence of another form of movement that happens underneath at a much greater, what would be technically a speed, if it didn't involve six different forms in time itself. So the 6 different time forms, technically, movement through hypertime, that involves a single click of any photon frequency that's measured. And so, not abstracting that without a book or some sort of treatise is very difficult. While it's very clear to me, sometimes I ignore it and I slip back into the sort of cause and effect intuition that we have with the relationship between the solar wind, quote unquote, and the geomagnetic activity. Now, in astrotometry, that's understood to be a complex illusion that falls out of this other relationship with what I call the hypertime, the time in which it takes for a physical object to remanifest in the next moment, to rematerialize. And so, it's some tough stuff. And if I included all of that in my log, there's no one around that would understand it right now. And so, sort of as a way to expedite this, I've abstracted it. And in my process of abstraction, I lobotomized my method. And so the thing that I had ignored before the log was that we dipped back into the solar minimum, what had been an increase in solar activity and solar higher energy forms, the sunspot cycle, disappeared again. And this is part of the reason that I've been so concerned about these big events, because at the beginning of 2010, when we saw these huge events, the solar cycle had started back up, which was the period that I was concerned about. I'm concerned about the period when the cycle starts after having been shut down for so long, because in the core weather model, the what you might think of as the kinetic energy, the entropy, the temperature of the core has decreased. And so in the three-dimensional model, you think of it as the magma solidifying on the underside of the tectonic plates. And so the seams of these places that we understand to be the plate boundaries are welded. They're sort of stuck where they are. And then when it heats up again, because there hasn't been the sort of movement that there would normally be when it's looser, the breaks are more sudden and could be higher in magnitude and higher in frequency, because there might be a sort of chain reaction that happens. Now, this is a theory. It's a three-dimensional model, and it's untested, but it's historically supported. If you look at the solar cycle trends with the that we have, the information we have, and the when the earthquakes occur, when the big ones have occurred, they seem to come when the solar cycles start back up, and sometimes at the peak of the solar cycles. And so there's two different types of events. and I've completely abstracted this from my logs.